I've been hunting over these Avian-X mallards for about, 7 years now. I was looking for an upgrade, looking for something foam-filled and flocked head. So I bought some new decoys. Bought some Migration Edition Tanglefree Drake Combo Pack mallards. And I did not buy these new. I bought them used on Facebook Marketplace, but they are new in box. Brandon Newland, thank you, sir. This is the 6-pack of all Drakes. I already had a bunch of Avian-X black ducks that are fully flocked, as well as the hen mallards from the other Avian-X. So I've got plenty of brown decoys, but I wanted something with the green head and that more white grayish back to provide some contrast to my decoy spread. The pack includes 6 Drakes. There are 2 with the alert heads, 2 with the heads kind of tucked down, and then 2 feeders. And the first thing that jumped out to me on these things were the wide backs and body profile of these things. They're a little bit wider than those Avian-X, and the color is a little bit lighter as well. So I think it's going to provide better contrast in the water. The other thing, of course, that jumped out to me is this really deep, rich green flocked head. Fully flocked head here, and it does not have that shine like the plastic Avian-X does. In addition to a flocked head, these come with flocked tail. Both the black as well as the white tail feathers are all flocked. Next thing that jumped out to me is the weight. These are foam filled and they are significantly heavier than the Avian-X. So if you're hiking these in a long distance, that's going to make a really big difference. But for me, I mostly hunt out of a boat or out of a short walk-in or ATV ride-in. So the weight is not really going to be a big thing for me, but if you're a public land hunter hiking in, certainly something to consider because these are significantly heavier than the Avian-X. We're going to go out to a pond here in a second and compare these on the water, the Avian-X versus the Tanglefree, and I think you're going to see a very big difference as far as the contrast goes with this darker Avian-X versus this much lighter Tanglefree decoy. But initially, out of the box, I do think these Tanglefrees with the flocked head look much more realistic than this painted green. But again, these are almost 8 years old, so not exactly a fair comparison, given these have been beat up at the bottom of a boat and have some wear and tear, and the paint is starting to fade on them. But the size comparison, the Tanglefree is slightly larger than the Avian-X. It's a little bit longer, as well as a little bit wider. When we get to the pond, you'll be able to see that even better. So now let's talk price for the Tanglefree versus the Avian-X. And believe it or not, these are actually pretty similar in price, which is interesting because the Tanglefree are both flocked and foam filled. Typically that level of decoy is going to be a lot more expensive, but Avian-X you're certainly paying for a brand, and you've got that nice durable EV rubberized type coating. But you can get these Avian-X for exactly $100 from Cabela's or Bass Pro. These Tanglefree seem to range from $95 all the way up to $130, depending on where you buy them and where you source them. So they can be more expensive, but you can also find them for about the same price as the Avian-X. Another big thing that jumped out to me is the keel. And this may seem simple, but these Tanglefrees have a big old hole right here, which makes it really nice for clipping in Texas rigs or tying on any decoy anchor for that matter. But in particular, the Texas rigs clip in there really easy. That's been one of my biggest complaints about the Avian-X is I actually had to widen this hole right here in the keel to fit the Texas rig style anchors on this decoy. The other 2 decoy attachment places actually are open to where that actually, if you put a line through there, you can actually pull it through on the bottom as well as the front. I don't know if that was the intended design, but that is how the mold came out on these particular decoys, where you can't actually anchor this from the keel itself. You have to come up here into the body, and the clips on the Texas rig are too big to fit in these little tiny factory holes. So that's a huge downside to these older Avian-X's is how you rig them. I really like how the Tanglefree have that giant hole there. Makes it really easy to rig. Another thing that jumped out to me are the bill colors. This Avian-X has a really pronounced yellow bill, whereas the Tanglefrees have a much darker, more mustardy, darker yellow. I don't know that either one makes a difference, lighter versus darker, but that is a very big difference looking at the 2. So if you prefer more brighter colors, then yes, I think the Avian-X is going to have a brighter head and a brighter bill. If you're looking for more of that dull, maybe natural color, then the Tanglefree is going to be your choice. I'm curious to see how these float compared to each other. I'm also curious to see how the contrast really does look when you're actually putting these into a pond, into some clear water. So let's head to the pond and have a look. Now let's see what they look like in the water, and I'm going to compare them to the Avian-X just to show you what the side profile looks like, but mainly what the top profile looks like looking down on these things. And that is a good looking decoy. It rides good. The beak is just above the water, which is nice. That way the water won't freeze. If it's really cold, it won't freeze to the bill. That side profile looks really nice. And from above, that is really nice contrast to the water, with this being a little bit lighter than that Avian-X decoy. And here we have the Avian-X feeder. This is the exact same decoys, they're feeders. And let's see how they compare. But you can tell the Tanglefree is certainly a wider decoy. Not a lot, but a little bit wider. And it is a little bit longer. Like I said earlier in the video, this is slightly longer, slightly wider. But as far as realism goes, it's really tough to beat the realism of that flocked head. That's more natural. It's just what a duck looks like. Avian-X even has a little bit of a shine to it. Even with this morning sun being just barely above the trees, you can see the shine on this guy as opposed to the Tanglefree. It's got more of that matte dull finish to it, which I think is more natural. We got ice on the pond out here, so that is one thing to be aware of. This decoy had been out here since 6 o'clock this morning. There would probably be ice and frost setting on that flocked head, whereas the Avian-X is much less likely to do that because it does not have the flocking. Drop a comment, let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you think the Tanglefree is more realistic or the Avian-X. Again, this is an 8-year-old decoy versus a brand new out of the box. So these are not exactly equals as far as field testing. I do think the paint and feathering on this Avian-X is a little more realistic. It just has a little more of a softer look to the paint, if that makes sense. Whereas the Tanglefree has these very defined lines that clearly look painted on, compared to the Avian-X, where the paint almost looks like it's into the decoy feathering and into the mold. So I do think this Avian-X is slightly more realistic in shape as well as paint colors, but I like the size, the contrast, and the flocking on the Tanglefree. I am really looking forward to using these guys, and I think I'm actually going to use these for the opener for where we're hunting. I'm really excited to get them in the swamp, see how they do. Curious how durable they are. I'm curious how the flocking holds up. I don't typically take great care of decoys. I don't use slotted bags. Maybe I should to take care of this flocking, because I really don't know how it's going to hold up. The Avian-X's never had to worry about that because there's no flocking on there. If I do any hunts or we're successful and I post a video, I'll make sure to point out whether or not we were using these new decoys. But thank you guys for watching. If you like these review videos, please drop a comment, let me know. But until next time, God bless, take care.